What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is JD from leterrip Adventures. We've got another garage day. What are we doing today? We are actually working on the 21 XP Turbo 4-seater. Now, I stated in the last video that we had several people reach out to us as far as being sponsors for the channel. One of them being ROTA Powerline out of Finland, which you've seen in that video. We worked on the Polaris scramblers. We installed their large air intake. We installed their inlet screen cover for the clutch assembly. We did their stage 1 clutch kit, and then we also did springs and the RPM exhaust. Now, with that being said, RPM also said, you know what, we got some stuff for this 21 XP Turbo that's going to liven this thing up. So I said, all right, what do you guys got? Now, to reiterate why I decided to go with RPM, I know there's a lot of companies out there. There's Evo, there's Bikeman, there is all kinds of companies out there, which I will say I do have a Bikeman sponsorship as well. All those products are great, but I wanted to also work with a company that not only is a proven product, but is affordable for the consumer, somebody like myself, somebody like my buddies, and anybody out there that wants to modify their machines but not break the bank doing it, because like I said, their price point is well below a lot of these guys, not saying that it's a bad product, but is affordable. So it appeals to the normal consumer that wants to modify their machine and not break the bank. So what did they send for the 21 XP Turbo? Let's check it out. Boom, there it is. So we've got the sport muffler, we've got the intake tube, we've got the J tube, we've got the air intake tube for the passenger side, we've got the blow-off valve, and we're about to throw all these things onto this 21 XP Turbo. When we're all done with that, I actually purchased the license for Dyno Jet. I do have the PV3. We're going to flash this thing with either a stage 2 or a stage 3 tune to put a little more pep in the step. Now, we did it with the 21 XP Turbo that my wife had, which we used to call Gray Ghost. It really wakes these machines up, makes them considerably, I don't know, a little more playful, a little more throttle response, and just overall a better driving experience. So I'm going to get some tools set up. It's just me filming today, so I'm going to set the tripod up, kind of walk you guys through what it takes to get this stuff tore apart and get these parts installed. So what am I doing? First things first, I'm going to get the tire off. I'm going to get the shock off, I'm going to get the intake tube for the clutch off, I'm going to get all that stuff out of my way because everything we need is tucked in behind there. Is all that stuff necessary? No. Can you do it without removing that stuff? Sure can. Is it a lot easier if you get a couple things out of the way? Sure is. So let's get some tools out, let's get this stuff out of the way. Okay. All right, as you can see, with all that stuff out of there, it makes things just so much easier, because right there's our J tube, that's got to come out. Right there is our intake tube, that's got to come out. We get to all this stuff, it's just easier. Just take the 2 minutes. It literally took me, I don't know, 4 minutes to get all that stuff out of the way. So let's grab a chair, let's grab another light so we can kind of see a little better what's going on. Let's start tearing this thing apart. Let's get some clamps cut. Unfortunately, there's no good way to get these, so we're just going to cut those. You don't reuse any of these, obviously, considering I just cut it, but they're pinch clamps, so once they're clamped, they're clamped, so we are just going to cut those, get those out of the way. Boom, there's that. There's that. There's that out of the way. Okay. Get that down out of the way. Boom. Okay. So I'm going to cut this. Get it out of the way. Actually, I might. We'll get this one too. This is your blow-off valve clamp. We're going to get that out of the way. That tube's done data. Alright, then we've got, I'll try to bring you in a little closer here. We've got this clamp back there, attaches to your turbo. You've got this clamp here, attaches to your air box. We'll work on those next. These are 11 mil. Okay, just got a deep well 1/4 inch socket. I'll loosen this up. Take it plenty loose, just makes it easier when you go to take this off of there. That way you're not fighting the flange on the air box. Just remember, when you're tightening this stuff up, you do want it to be tight, but you don't want to over tighten it because most of this stuff is hooked to a plastic housing and you don't want to break nothing. You do want to start being careful when you take your intake tube, this tube off, right up in there with your blow-off valve attached to, due to the fact that as your intake, you don't want chunks and debris and stuff getting inside your motor, so be cautious of that when you get to that point. So there's that one, and you've got this guy down here, attached to the turbo, and of course it's inconveniently located and clocked just a little bit the wrong way. Okay, it has started. So we'll get those two clamps loose. We'll disconnect this because we do reuse this. That goes on a new silicone J-tube. So we'll get these loosened up, get that removed, and move on to the next step. All right, we got the J-tube pulled off of there. Next is the sensor. Maybe a little stubborn due to the fact of the amount of debris and other stuff that's in there. Just be cautious when you pull this off because you are going to have to reuse it. So I used a little screwdriver, popped it out, and that is off of there. Now remember, you will be using this sensor. We'll show you that in a little bit. Next, you've got this clamp right here for your intake tube. I don't know if I'll get lucky enough to get an impact in there or not. Just to make life a little easier. Let's see. Oh yeah. That nice and loose. That way you're not fighting the flange on the turbo trying to pull it off. And we've got your boost reference line here on top of the blow-off valve. That gets replaced with a different one, but I think I am going to remove that eventually once I get the intake tube. Now the other challenging one is up right there on top of the throttle body. That one is a pain in the butt. So what I think I'm going to do is I am going to pull the exhaust off of here. That way I have straight access to the intake because we are replacing that anyway. So grab a couple different tools here. Let's get that exhaust pulled off. 4 hex bolts. Takes your shroud off. Next we've got the exhaust bolts, 13 mil. One. We got the bolts off. Next, let's get your springs off. Neat little trick, you just take a rope. This is just a shoelace. Wrap it around the spring. Give it a pull and it pulls right off. Same thing putting it on, then you just pull your string out. It's great. Sorry, this is bright. I know this is bright, but I actually adjusted so you guys can see inside the darkness of the side-by-side. We've got this spring, and we've got one on the back side right here. All right, there's the exhaust off. Now I'm gonna remove this shield because the intake, end of the intake is right behind this shield. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 mils, get that out of the way. You don't necessarily have to do this, but for me, I'm gonna do it because it just makes life a lot easier, making sure you don't get dirt and stuff, and it's done right because you don't want to mess this up. You don't want dirt or air leaks or anything for that matter. So let's get this shield pulled off. I'll be back in a second. This up just a little, get the bolt out of the way, this bolt out of the way, and this should up out of the way. Alright, bring you on in here. The reason why I did that is because, as you can see, right there is the clamp for your intake. Just makes life a lot easier versus trying to sneak in through here with a ratchet and everything like that. 2 minutes and you can have that off. That'll give me the opportunity, hold on, clean all this up and everything like that. So we'll do that next. We'll get this loosened up, get that pulled out of there. Okay, one thing you want to note when you are taking this off of here, okay, there is a push tab right here to to release it, but before you do that, you have to pry out this little plastic retaining piece. You pull back the rubber out of the way, pull the little plastic retaining piece, then you can push your pin tab, which is, or your clip tab, which is right there, and then it will come off of that sensor. Once again, just like the other one, we will be reusing that sensor. I'll show you that when we get to that point. So we have got everything loosened up, got our clamps loose. So from here, I'm going to work on prying up my intake tube. Give her a good old wiggly wiggly till she pops off of there. Okay. And this is the tricky part. This is kind of a bear getting all the stuff out of there. I lifted it up, bringing it towards the driver's side of the machine. Then from there, we've got to get it off of the turbo, which I'm going to crawl up top from the top side, pull it off of there. Okay. Now, you just gotta get it out of there. Jeez Louise. Okay, that's out of there. Good Lord. Okay, then from there, should be where it should be able to manipulate this out of there. Woo! Okay, as you can see, that's the worst part, getting that out of there. There are several different ways you can manipulate it out of there. Either way, it's out. So we have to start swapping some sensors. Once we get that done, we can start putting everything back on. Okay, one of the first sensors you're gonna have to reuse is this guy right here. It's on your J-tube. So we're gonna zip this off. And that guy comes out. Should be a little O-ring on there, which there is. I'm gonna throw just a little bit of grease on here and transfer that over to this guy. As you can see, they have new hardware, so let's get a dab of grease. And when I mean a dab, I'm talking just like a minute amount. I wanna make sure that that seals properly before we throw it back in here. Okay, we'll get that loosened up. Okay. There's a little Loctite on this, so make sure you put a little more Loctite on there. Don't mind the train. That pops right in there. Grab some Loctite. Little drop of Loctite. And we're gonna snug, we're gonna get this out of the way. Don't need to reuse any of the clamps or anything. They provide you with all the new hardware as far as that's concerned. So tighten this up. Doesn't need to be crazy. It is a little 8mm. Does have Loctite, so we're just gonna make sure it's snug. She's good. Okay, there's that one. That's ready to get reinstalled. All right, so next one we got is this one right here. Pull this sensor off. This is gonna get transferred over to your silicone intake tube. Same thing, has an O-ring. Make sure it's nice and clean. We're going to put a little dab of grease on that as well. Once again, very small amount just to seal up that O-ring. Okay, get this out of the way. Bring in your silicone tube. Just like before, just pops in. Then they send you with new hardware, which does require a dribble of Loctite. Oh, too much. Little 8mm. Run this on. Snug it down, good to go. That one's ready to be reinstalled. Okay, at this point we've got everything out of there. So you can see everything's all cleaned up, all nice and neat. So at this point, we're gonna start getting everything reinstalled. So first, we got our intake tube. So I did take the clamp off of this side, sitting right here. Once you get it worked up in there, you will have to slide your clamp back on, but it's just less likely for this to get caught up on wires and stuff as you're heading it up in there. But we're going to work this up in here. What's nice about this one is it's the silicone tube, so it is flexible. Gives you the ability to manipulate it where you need to get everything up in there. Okay, so I've got it semi-ish in place. I'm going to take this clamp, slide it back on the end of the intake tube before I can't get it on there. Okay, that's in place. Okay, I'm going to move you around here. So from here, we've got to get this started on the turbo. Okay, she slides right on. Okay, there's that side. Now we're going to move. I'm going to move you again. Whoop, whoop. Now we have to work on getting the intake tube back up inside of here. Okay. You will have to fight with it a little bit. And there she is. It is on. As you can see here how restricted that is compared to the size of that intake tube that we put on there. But this accordion right here gets brittle from flexing, and it'll eventually, they'll get brittle, they'll crack, and then you've got an intake leak, allowing dirt and debris inside of there. Don't want that. So we're gonna get this tightened down, move on to installing the blow-off valve, and we're moving right along, guys. All right, guys, next up is blow-off valve. I already have the blow-off valve slid up inside your intake tube. I ran the boost reference line over the top of the intake. I was going to use their replacement, but I really like, yep, that's fine. I really like how it has the braided surround, and I feel that fitting is good as far as the OEM clamping setup. So we're just going to run it this route, plug it in right there. Now, you can see that I do have the filter on there. It is not necessary, but I'm doing it because we do run through mud, slop, and some other stuff. I want to keep the debris. Now, here's your J-tube. You can see that this is officially capped right here. If you didn't want to hear the swooshing sound from the blow-off valve, you would rerun your tube from your bottom of your blow-off valve back into your J-tube so it recirculates. Otherwise, RPM, they have this capped at the beginning. This is your crankcase pressure relief tube, or whatever you want to call it. So that will indeed get plugged into there. So we're going to finish getting this tightened up. Let's get our boost reference line plugged in. If I had a little... Okay, that's on there. Okay. Now it's not necessary, but I am going to take a little zip tie, put a little zip tie around this. I am going to make sure that that is indeed tight. Tighten the clamp up on the top, and then we'll be moving on to the J-tube. Okay, we are to the point of installing our J-tube. So make sure you orientate your clamps so you can get to them to tighten them up. Let's see, we're going to go there with this one, there with that one. So we're going to go. That just slides on. That just slides on. Okay. You see me slide my J-tube in there, and I was like, what in the world am I going to do? Because once I went to go plug this in, there wasn't enough cord there to plug that in. There wasn't enough wire. I mean, simple as that. So luckily I was able to grab this sensor and rotate it inside that silicone tube. Carefully you don't pop it out of there, because it is a pinch style clamp and it is on there. So I was able to rotate it enough, and as you can see, we've got enough to get that plugged in. So let's get that real quick. right, let me set you down here so you don't fall. Okay. Make sure you hear it pop in. Okay, try to stretch just a little bit. Get a little slack in that so it's not, don't pull those out. That seems good. There's enough there. Okay, next step is going to be right here. And before I actually hook that up, as you can see, that goes right there. I'll reroute it. That gets plugged in. That's your crankcase pressure tube. So you want to make sure that you do that. And that's one thing that guys do. Hold on. That's one thing that guys do is they put a catch can on these things, especially if you start talking, you know, high horsepower tunes and stuff like that, because that tube recirculates like moisture and oil and all kinds of stuff. It goes through your intercooler, back through your intake, and it reburns that. So if you put a catch can on these things to catch that, you know, oil residue and hot air and moisture and stuff, you can get a little better tuning out of these machines when you start talking high horsepower. But we ain't that crazy. The stage 3, we're no need for that. So we're gonna plug that in. So we're gonna get all these clamps tightened up, get everything pretty much buttoned up, and it's getting to the point where we can throw the exhaust on, flash this thing, and see what it sounds like. Got that all cleaned up. It's all good. I gotta run this up there. Make sure you sneak your spring through. Make sure you ain't crushing nothing you're not supposed to. And then we got 4 little 10 millers. Get these started. Could you probably get away with not putting this on there? Possibly. Do I want to find out? No. Your intercooler and everything is right there, so I don't need to generate extra heat into the intake past your intercooler and stuff like that. So we're going to put the heat shield back on. Okay, this, that, and this. Okay. Okay, next is the exhaust. Oh, we're going to get this started, found out, put the top ones in, and you can kind of roll the exhaust out, compress that tube a little bit, and get it started. Okay, there's that. All right, so I'm gonna take my little shoelace that I showed you, that neat little trick, hook it on there, come on, hook it on there, give it a pull. Oh man, broke my rope. Jeez, they don't make shoelaces like they used to, so we'll try that again. Grab a hold of it. Okay, now when she's clipped, just pull your rope out, slicker than slick. All right, so from here, I'm going to get this tightened down and finish putting some shrouding on, and she is just about done. All right, guys, there it is. Wife is in the XP Turbo. She says she wants to take this thing for a ride because I told her it's a little rowdy. She doesn't believe me. Yes, but we do. So let's do a recap of what we did in this video. So not only did we tune it, we had to go in, update our PV3. We gave them the info for the ECU that's in this thing. We downloaded some tunes, and it currently has a stage 2 tune on here. Now the reason why did we do that? This is the reason why. I told you at the beginning, I told you in the last video, RPM reached out and said, you know what, guys, here is some product that is affordable to the normal consumer. We've got tested results. Check it out, try it out. And I said, you know what, that's great, because I feel aftermarket parts have become extremely expensive for the average Joe like you and I. So for me, I was excited to get this stuff on the rig. So what did we all install? First off, we've got the large air intake coming from the your inlet down to the air filter box, that's in there. We've got the RPM Sport muffler. Now, I thought about covering it up, but I really like how shiny it is. It's shiny goodness. So it's not stupid loud. You can hear it when you bark, or when you get on it, it barks a little bit. But at an idle and stuff like that, I think it sounds very, I like it. I think it sounds nice. And then what else did we do? We've got our intake tube, silicone intake tube, all that. We've got the J-tube, and then also tucked up in there, which I'm not sure if you can see, seen at the beginning of the video or during this video, that we do have the atmospheric blow-off valve. We did not do the recirculate. We want it to make the sounds, because we all know RPM has one of the loudest blow-off valves in the industry, and we do miss that. So the wife and I, we're gonna take it for a cruise. Take it for a cruise, right?
Let me hear that blowhole.
Yeah, she wants to hear the blowhole. So we're gonna fire it up. Go ahead, babe. Can you reach over there and fire this thing up? All right, we'll give you a little cold start. It's got a deep, nice little grumble. Give her a rep there, babe. Give her a rep there, babe. Yep, sounds awesome. Did you hear it? All right, so we're gonna take this thing for a cruise. I'll give the wife the camera. She might sling it around a little bit, but definitely between all the more flow, more go parts, throwing the stage 2 tune on this thing, it livens these things up considerably. There's no delay in the mid-range. I notice it runs a little cooler, idles a little smoother. So let's go for a cruise. Yeah, we'll do a little pull here. Like, she's definitely
high-pitched.
Yep, so definitely she'll break the tires loose. We're doing 30 mashed on it, and it'll break the tires loose on blacktop, so pretty happy with it. So either way, wife likes that shoo sound. Oh. Yeah.
One more time.
One more time. All right, so that does it. Adds to the driving experience between the exhaust, the tune, and the blow-off valve. Just makes it, I don't know, a little more playful. So we're gonna go for a cruise around our local town here, kind of go see what's going on. We need a gallon of milk, and then we're gonna sign off on that. So like always, guys, hold on. Hit that thumbs up. What? Hit that thumbs up, hit that notification bell if you want to see content when we post. And like we always say, guys, on to the next adventure.